everybody. Welcome back to the Aliens and Angels podcast. Today, my guest was not able to make it to the show, so I thought I would ask, are the Greys one race or many? And I'll open it up to the live chat for discussion. All of the links are featured below in the description. Please do check me out, subscribe to my channels, leave me a comment, like my videos, and share my content with your friends. And I'm happy to say that channel memberships are now available. So if you'd like to help support my channel and receive the perks, please do join my channel. And I have a couple quick announcements. First of all, I've been getting comments from the audience saying that they are mysteriously unsubscribed from my YouTube channel. So, regardless of the channel that you've subscribed to featuring my content, if you've subscribed to YouTube or Rumble, can you please double check and make sure you're still subscribed? I guess really I've hit the big time when YouTube starts to remove my subscriptions or my subs. But anyway, I'm hoping that you will resub if you've been taken off as a subscriber. And the other thing I would like to talk about is I do use AI for my thumbnails and for my background, and that's it. So I know a lot of people are looking for authentic podcasts. They want to listen to real people talking about real things in their own symbols and language and sharing concepts. They don't want to hear pre-digested material from AI. And if you, the viewer, are one of those people, then please rest assured that all the content, and honestly, if you watch my show, you would quickly ascertain that it's not AI generated because of its imperfections. But I'm not afraid of that or not worried at all about that. I just want you to know you're getting some real content. So let's start off by just saying hi to a couple people in the chat. We've got Denise. Denise is my ever faithful moderator, shows up to every show and keeps things going square and puts the announcements and links and things as are needed, in the live chat. So I just wanted to thank you again, Denise. Denise has posted this. Please say hi, hit the like button, share out, and subscribe. Thank you. We've also got Kristen. Kristen's with us again. Hello, Karen. Glad to be here. Hello, Denise. Good to see you. Very good to see you too, Kristen. We've got Rodney back, Rodney Letman. Hi, nice to have you back. And I guess that is everybody who's here so far. But people, of course, come in late because even though it's noontime here on Mountain Time and later on the East Coast, it's still, kind of early for folks on the Pacific Coast. So I just want to welcome you all. Yeah, so I had a guest lined up for today out of China. He's a man who has had extensive ET contact, and he was going to come on with a translator, but he didn't realize that this is a live show. So I like to keep it consistent every Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific, noon Mountain, or 2 p.m. Eastern, because of the live chat is part of the conversation. And he is in China, so I guess it would be like 2 o'clock in the morning the next day for him, and it was just too late. So that's why he's not here. He meant to, he wanted to, I wanted him to, but we couldn't work out a time. I'm going to say hi to Pietro Schiavetti. I'm sorry if I didn't say your name right, but I still appreciate you. Welcome to the podcast. So instead of my guests, I thought I'd ask this question. I've asked it before. We've talked about it before, but it's interesting. Now, it's about the Greys. Now, pretty much everybody agrees there is such a humanoid that we affectionately refer to as the Greys. And the reason we call them the grays is because pretty much, except for slight deviations, they lack the pigment to reflect light in our visible light spectrum that we can see with our eyes. And so they all appear to be shades of gray. But actually, they do have color. It's just that they can see beyond the spectrum that we can see. I've heard so many different accounts from very sincere people who are talking about their own experiences. I don't think one is true and another is a lie. I think they're all being filtered through the individual's perceptual arena. And they're working without concepts or language, because let's face it, in school, they sure didn't teach me about aliens or ETs or anything like that. And they're describing to the best of their um, ability. So there are, I'll just run through a few that I'm familiar with. There might be more. Feel free to, add to the comments in the chat if you know of other groups that I haven't covered. But basically, there are the grays that are supposed to come from Zeta Reticuli. There's different accounts. According to Dolly Safran, they travel here in spaceships. Um, According to Sue Walker, there are grays who have been here longer than humans, like 25,000 years or even longer. Um, it's not clear how they got here, but they are here conducting experiments and supervising humankind. And then there are, of course, all of the MyLab accounts, which basically is ETs that we would call the grays that are working with military, and they probably exist in every country. And they actually abduct people, give them a pretty rough time, often take them to either American or domestic constructed spaceships or flying saucers or whatever, and do experiments on them. And it's usually a very frightening and cruel experience. And these people are just traumatized for their whole lives after having that happen. And they're convinced that it's they're being abducted by gray aliens, and maybe they are. I don't know. I don't know the backstory specifically. And of course, I have no proof on any of this. I'm just talking about, how I understand things to be. Oh, welcome. AML is here joining us. And they said, yes, the Ponte. Yes, exactly. And I totally agree that these are real beings, just like the beings that Dolly Safran talks about. And they talk about both different groups in great detail. There's been other people who claim that there are grays that are transdimensional. There are people who talk about grays who have a very robust hybrid program where they're breeding with humans for a variety of reasons. Some of it's for us and some of it's for them. Um, and then there are all kinds of accounts that are very friendly. Preston Dennett is a wonderful example. He's published over 30 books about different kinds of ETs, primarily grays, but also including mantids and all kinds of other hooded beings and things. And often they actually take people and heal them and then return them. And then there are the kind of grays that we've heard about from oh my gosh, can't remember his name off the top of my head. I hate getting old, guys. I forget stuff. I'm doing the best I can. I appreciate you for your patience and for hanging in there with me. Oh, Chris Bledsoe. Chris Bledsoe, they have these kind of small worker bee grays that have red eyes that accompany and serve what he calls the lady. And all these orbs and things shapeshift into kind of like gray aliens, but also kind of angelic beings. And I believe him too. So there's a whole lot of disclosure going on all over the world. And I don't doubt any of it. And I have no idea what's real or what's not. So my question to the audience and to the live chat is there only one race of what we call the Greys? And if so, are we seeing them in many different facets or interpretations of reality? Is there many different races of Greys? So it's my understanding that most ETs are what we would call humanoid: head, two arms, two legs, walk upright with a torso in the middle. Some are very short, some are very tall. Oh, yeah, there's another version of Greys where they are like robots, biological robots. And I think Whitley Strieber talks about those. So that's another sort of brand. So, what are we even talking about? What is this phenomenon? I want to give it up to the live chat. Oh, we also have Teresa Levine is also with us. Hello, Teresa. So glad that you could be with us. AML says there are several races of Greys as per a channel I am receiving. Yeah, I would actually side with you. I would agree. I think there's many different races. When you think about the size of our perceived universe, if you believe in a globe Earth, and I'm not making jokes here or making fun of anybody. I give everybody the respect they deserve for their honest research and opinions. And the flat Earth theory is not actually about a flat plate Earth. It's um, more about simulation theory. And if you understand quantum physics and you understand a quantum theory, you also would understand the universe, even if we were not in a globe Earth, still supports unimaginable amount of life. And there are other worlds outside of ours. And so, in my opinion, the Greys are transdimensional. They come in and they come out of our reality. And, sometimes we find out where they're coming from and where they aren't coming from. Okay, Rodney says, heard they were soulless. I don't know. How can we say that they have no soul? Honestly, I mean, there are a lot of people that think that there's a lot of people called NPCs that have no soul. I don't really know how we would gauge that or how we would come to that conclusion. Honestly, I'm not saying you're wrong, Rodney. I'm just saying that in my experience, which is the wackiest of all the Gray interpretations I've heard of. Hang on, and I'll tell you about it if you're not familiar. Um, let's see. Rodney says it's a closed system. Not sure what you mean by that, Rodney. Can you give us a little bit more information to go on? AML says no different than the many different races of humanoids that reside on Earth. Now, I have to agree with you again, AML, and I'm just basing this on my own experience, not on research, not on stories and accounts I've heard about, not on books I've read. But I'm going to tell you about my experience. My experience clearly is transdimensional, where I was transported to a different dimensional reality. I met all kinds of ETs who look very much like humans. Most of them, if they're walking down the street or maybe wearing a hat to cover their ears or whatever, you wouldn't even realize that they were non-human intelligences. Many of them are very beautiful, mainly because they're so healthy. Many of them are bigger than us, larger bone frames, more muscular, and in such extremely good health that it really was a shock to me to come back and compare that with the way humans look. I don't consider us very healthy at all. So while I was there, I also met what looked like Greys as we understand them here on Earth, but they actually weren't. They were some kind of suit that beings could have their essence or who they are, or a copy of themselves or their soul. I'm not sure about the details, but they could be infused into these sort of fake bodies. They were biological, but I don't know how they were created. They're very limited. So beings are not in them for very long. You can read about this in my book in way more detail and what it was like for me the first time I tried going aboard the big ship in one of these, what I'll call loosely container. Um, it was actually almost bordered on traumatic for me, especially when I looked in the mirror and my usual self was obviously not there, and I was looking at, what we might call a gray. And it was interesting how it dissolved a lot of my false beliefs about myself. It was very interesting experience. Like I said, y'all can read about that if you want more detail in my book. My book's called Transdimensional: Meet the New Neighbors. The links are below, and I'll probably at half point play a 1.5 minute clip promoting my book, telling you more about it. So, anyway, the beings who would come aboard the big ship using one of these container suits, is what I call them. I know they're artificially constructed. I don't know how, I don't know the details. And I sure didn't want to know what they did with the bodies after the beings went back to their base realities. Um, but what I found interesting is the beings that occupy them only do so for a very short period of time. So they don't need to eat or go to the bathroom or sleep when they're aboard the big ship wearing one of these container suits. Um, and that would explain why their ears and nose and mouth appear often as being underdeveloped, almost fetal like. And it's just to give physicality to beings who, for whatever reason, are not bringing their real body or are not doing, um, I don't know, quantum entanglement or whatever to be there in the flesh. So I would say my account of the grays, at least the ones I experienced, it doesn't. I'm not speaking for all the accounts here. Is pretty weird. And of course, as always, I don't expect anyone to believe me. That's not the point. I think the point is the higher lessons I learned from interacting with these beings. I'm just going to swing back uh, oh yeah, that was the other thing I wanted to say. ETs, as I understand them, have huge diversity. Even within one family race or one family line, there are some that are taller than others, or some that are thicker than others, or some that have bigger ears, smaller nose, whatever. Same diversity of skin tones, huge diversity. And so, yeah, I would totally agree with AML on that one. AML also says, yes, many are outside of our current dimension. Those who are open can reach many of the other dimensions, primarily via telepathic communication. And that is also true for my experience. ET only speaks telepathically. I've never seen ET communicate, at least not to me, using words with the mouth and the spit and the teeth and all that. In fact, they find that aggressive and threatening. They're very, most of them are very tidy around the mouth. And telepathy works so much better. It's such a superior way of communicating. That is what, in my opinion, ET uses. Now, I could be wrong. I'm not able to know for sure about everybody's experiences, but I'll just say that's sort of how it was for me. Okay, Rodney, that's what you were saying. Flat Earth firmament closed system. Yes. So there's even there's many different branches of what you would call flat Earth theory, and some of them believe that we are kind of sitting in a bowl with a firmament over us. But there's all kinds of lands that we don't even know about that exist on either the other side of the ice wall or outside of the firmament or whatever. And these could be those kind of off-worlders. So it's really what I really like about today is we can have so much diversity in our opinions and how we see things. But when we share them all, it's like many different pieces of a puzzle coming together to give us a better understanding, because we have not been told the truth, not school, not a university, not a college, not culturally. We are informationally deprived big time and on every single level. And don't get me started on the inversions that they claim are true and real, which totally aren't. So I'll just sort of leave it at that. Let's see. Rodney says they could be on 3i Atlas, maybe, so they didn't need to use their miles. Yeah, I guess that is possible. As far as sorry, 3i Atlas goes, I don't really have an opinion. Personally, I don't think it's a spaceship that's bound for Earth. And there's been no evidence to suggest that. The other thing is, in my experience, these different so-called vehicles, whether they're UFOs or spaceships or whatever, because they come in many different shapes and sizes, I don't think they travel as far as the way we travel, get in the car and ride for an hour and go visit grandma. They just are what happens is point A becomes point B when you're traveling interdimensionally or transdimensionally. And that's another thing I get into in my book. When I was aboard the big ship, I was surprised to find out a couple of things. One thing that really surprised me was the energy that the ship needs to do what it does comes from the occupants. So they've actually built kind of culture and celebration into the day when we replenish the energy of the big ship. So basically, we don't eat a lot during the day. We kind of contemplative. We spend the day kind of contemplative. We think about all the benefits and wonderful gifts that the big ship supplies to us. Everything from growing our food, to the way it's so wonderfully biologically um, able to produce whatever we need. And we have no problem sharing some of our life force energy with the big ship to replenish the stores. So then we usually meet socially, like in small gatherings and stuff. And the ship emits some tones, and we go into a very deep meditative state. And for me, I always fall asleep. I don't know why, just do. And then pretty soon, what seems like pretty soon, my friends are waking me up. And here a few hours have passed. It usually takes some time to take our energy. And some of us feel really tired afterwards, and some feel just fine. It depends if we're used to the process, our biological details, things like that. But they have healing pods that you can go and rest up in, and it replenishes not our energy. What it does is it replenishes the body so that we can produce enough of our own life force energy so that we're no longer tired. So that was kind of cool too. So I can't remember how I got off on this tangent. Uh, I guess it was, I guess we're talking about 3i Atlas and how I don't think it would just travel point A to point B. I'm thinking that it would be transdimensional travel. And that's how it was done aboard the big ship. So this is another process that I talk about in my book where where when they want to move the big ship. So where is the big ship? It took me years to figure it out. Um, I couldn't understand where it was. Why wasn't I told? Is it in this solar system or that galaxy or that quadrant? Where was it? I didn't know. I wasn't clear. And then I realized, or it was given to me, not sure sometimes how this works. And I understood that the big ship sits in an interdimensional envelope. So if you can imagine a Venn diagram is where different things overlap, but not completely. So there's places where there's overlap and places that are separate. Imagine a Venn diagram that looks like a daisy. And imagine that this daisy has 100 or more petals on it, and they all overlap at the center of the flower. This is just an analogy, but it'll help give you the picture. So some of those petals can represent the spiritual realms, some the three-dimensional realms, some a different timeline, some a different world, if you believe in the many worlds theory, from a different dimensional reality. And but they all overlap at the big ship, and that's where it sits. So it's actually sitting in interdimensional or transdimensional space. And that makes it much easier for all kinds of beings to come and go and to achieve all kinds of different goals. So, based on my own experience, I think it's unlikely that a huge giant mothership is just going to travel, which might travel quickly from what we understand, but it's actually very, very slow when you take into account how big the universe actually is. And I think that would apply for um, both the globe Earth or any of the flat Earth theories. Okay, let me just put in here. AML says, because we are light beings, the container suit is a way for light beings to travel to other dimensions and planets, especially where the vibrational frequency is much lower than their frequency. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, and let's see. AML also says the lands are in unseen dimensions that operate simultaneously with our 3D matrix. Yeah, you might well be. You might well be on the money, AML, for that. I don't really know for sure. So I think the chat is sort of online that there are many different groups of beings that we would call grays. They might not even know about each other, or they might look quite different from each other. Again, some are like 3.5 feet tall, and some are like 7 or 8 feet tall. Um, Very, very different. But the only thing they would have in common, they could all see so much more of the light spectrum than us. If they would see each other, not as grays at all. So grays is kind of a stereotype we've given to ET. Some people go, oh, you can't call them aliens and you can't call them grays because that's disrespectful. Well, I hate to tell you all this, but political correctness is a construct in our world. It's not a real thing amongst other beings and in other dimensional realities. It's not a real thing. They don't have that construct. So it doesn't matter what they measure as intention. So if our intention is good and we're just playfully or even seriously calling them aliens or grays, they're not offended. Why would they be offended? They know that we're struggling with concepts and language so that we can talk about them and hopefully in the long run be more accepting of them. I think the thing that's important amongst probably most of the groups, non-human groups, is that we achieve the frequency of love. Love is a very high frequency, and it is the vibe that the ETs vibe on. Their culture, their social life, their work environment, everything is extremely loving. And humans, we've got a long way to go. And, as far as being afraid of ET, I flip that around and say, what about humans? What about the things humans have done to each other historically and even now in current times? And I'm going to say something that, well, I'll just grab a couple of comments here from the live chat before I go down another rabbit hole. AML says the lands are in unseen dimensions that operate simultaneously with our 3D matrix. And Pietro says, was the reality you were in visually and physically the same, or did you feel different, like a higher dimensional reality? How did you feel during mundane moments during the day? Okay, so that's a really good question. So I'll just start by saying it never happened to me in the daytime. It never happened to me where a ship showed up and beamed me aboard and took me away. That never happened for me. For me, I went to bed every night and I would be transported to the big ship. And there's a time differential. So while I was aboard the big ship, I could be gone for what felt like and what I experienced as days, weeks, even months. Eventually, I would wake up and be back in my own little bed, and only one night had passed by. And this happened every night for a 3-month period of our time here on Earth. I know it's unbelievable. I do not expect you to believe me. If you want to learn more, I go into great detail in my book. And that was in about 2014. And I have had some sort of astral projection, lucid dreaming contact since then, but nothing like when I was there for what felt like, while I was there, 3.5 years. It was unbelievable. And yes, we had very mundane lives as well as kind of interesting lives. So, for instance, I needed to learn telepathy. Oh my God, that took a long time. That took months and months and months before I was proficient, but I had to get proficient in it before I could move on to other things like training, exploration, all kinds of other things. And it was also, remember I said they vibe on the love harmonic? Learning telepathy is the loving thing to do so that we don't offend other beings, not that they would be easily offended, but so that we can be more harmonious with that culture and with that way of being. And the other thing is that telepathy isn't just about broadcasting what you're thinking. Telepathy is very much about not broadcasting what you're thinking. So you might have all kinds of things you want to think, and that they might be able to pick up on, but you don't want to share your dirty laundry. You don't want to share insignificant stuff and dominate the whole conversation. That would just kind of be rude. You want to take your place in this very loving environment. Oh, Denise, thank you so much. Denise, you're very, very generous. You're my most generous supporter. I thank you so much. You not only work so hard to maintain the live chat and keep everybody happy and informed, but you're also very, very wonderful for all of your donations. So, like I said, y'all should read my book. It's not a hard read, it's not technical, it's not thick as a brick. It's fairly simple, but absolutely to the point. And I think you would all learn something that maybe you didn't understand about this whole contact we're having with non-human intelligences. So I will just very quickly play a minute and a half promo for my book. And let's see, where is it? Here it is. Learn about the stunning details of ET diversity and culture, along with their advanced ways of living spiritually, which is in no way like anything imagined here on Earth. Transdimensional, Meet the New Neighbors, introduces you to many different looking ET beings, the organic healing pods, the self-assembling interior of the big ship, my ET buddy and the orientation process, cultural events like concerts and the joining of ships, as well as off-world physical and non-physical loving practices. In my contact experience, I learned a great deal about ET origins, transdimensional travel, intergalactic planetary research, and the various options for resettlement. My goal is to introduce you to the look, culture, intention, and technology of beings which are different than humans, in order to reduce your fear and increase your familiarity so that you will remain more rational and grounded once the ET presence escalates beyond debate. Enjoy reading about my real-life adventures and notice the things we have in common, so you will see that we are essentially many family lines within one species. Paperback and Kindle versions of Transdimensional Meet the New Neighbors is now available on Amazon worldwide. To gift yourself or someone you love, pick up your copies today. I hope you enjoyed that. Yeah, that's sort of my pre-Christmas promotion. I live in Canada and we're having a mail strike, and I generally sell from my website orgone generators and crystals and all kinds of things that I can't ship to anybody. So I thought, well, I better get on an early promotion for my book, because you can order that from Amazon and it will come whatever country you're in. It will be delivered to you by courier. So yeah, so I hope you enjoyed that. My little creeping Christmas tree. Gosh, yeah. Oh, okay, so now I want to check in with Louis Divulgent or Divulgent. Nice to see you, Louis. Thank you for joining us, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. We've got Kristen Kruger. She says, thank you. Aw, Denise, aren't you sweet? She says, it's a wonderful book. I cried in the beginning. Well, I do get a little bit into my trauma because it's those of us who have had trauma or are divergent, we tend to have an easier time with dimensional realities. And so I don't get into a lot about what happened to me, but I give a couple little um, spots where I talk about it just so that you can see. I'm not talking about a spanking I received when I was 6. I mean, I had some significant issues growing up, but it also led to all these amazing paranormal experiences. And so the first 2 chapters, I get into that before I actually get into my ET topic, my ET contact topic. So I don't know if that's what you're referring to, Denise, but bless your heart. And thank you so much for recommending my book. I really, really appreciate it. And yeah, so that's my experience. Now, the only actual experience besides the container bodies that I had an experience with, actually, a couple of experiences with. Um, I have a friend that I call Bob the Gray. And I want you all to pay attention to what I'm going to say, because a lot of us are having interdimensional, transdimensional experiences. We don't even realize it. And again, excuse me, and again, we were never given the concepts or the language or the culture that accepts this phenomena and supports us with our experience. So what happens is quite often we'll wake up from having an extremely vivid and logical experience while we're sleeping, which I would call lucid dreaming, or even remote viewing, or even um, traveling, via what do they call it? Astral projection. I think those are all the same phenomena. It just depends on how we perceive it and how we view it, right? So I think a lot of people are having these experiences, but they don't realize it. And that's what happened to me first. So about 5 years before I went to the big ship, I was having communications from a being that I affectionately call Bob the Gray, because he looks kind of like a gray. Um, he's nothing like the stereotype. He has a great sense of humor. He wears a fedora. I think he wants to make me laugh because he doesn't want me to be scared. He wanted me to have a close relationship with him so he could make things happen for me that I was not yet able to do on my own. And so I was getting what you would call visual overlays from him. I was seeing him in the portal of my mind's eye, which they call the imagination. But I got to tell you, it's actually a technology. We all have this gift. Same with telepathy, all of that. We have that gift. We just may not know how to use it. Um, and it was kind of bothering me because he kept coming into my mind, showing me things. I was getting spontaneous downloads. I was getting overlays. Overlays can be really annoying because it's like the imagination vision is so strong, it overrides what we're seeing with our eyes. So I could look out at my living room. I can sort of see my living room, but there's a clear overlay of the lesson or the message or the information that Bob wanted to give me. And quite frankly, at that point, I thought it was maybe a bit nuts. I didn't know. I'd never heard of this before. I didn't know what was happening to me. And so I actually started making fun of him. And then in retrospect, I felt very bad for doing that. And he went away until I was ready. And when I was ready, was around the time that I had my own transdimensional experiences so that I could have the headspace to accept that he was a part of that. And I believe he facilitates when I want to do remote viewing or astral projection or lucid dreaming, depending on how you experience it. I think it involves maybe different levels of being aware what your body's doing, your physical body's doing, rather than a complete disconnection. And he's been absolutely lovely. And I don't know where he lives or what group he's with. I have no idea. And but I do get the sense, because I've also had angelic contact, which is also in my book. I do get the sense that he has a higher station, probably close to what the angels have, although they can appear quite different. And so I was very, very happy to have contact with him, explain so many things. He helped me to understand so many things that I just couldn't understand on my own, especially about the way our world works in the here and now in the 3D. He's been wonderful. Now, in the last few years, I would say since 2020, I haven't needed him as much. And I believe he's off helping other beings, even probably Earth people, to make the contact that they want to have. And he may or may not be also very active amongst the autism community, which has much higher success rates at telepathy and transdimensional travel. So I'll just leave it at that. If you want to know more about that, check out the telepathy tapes. It's on YouTube. It's free. It's amazing. And they're coming out with season 2 soon. So let's see. AML says, I have them frequently with many different galactic races. Yeah, absolutely. I believe you. I absolutely believe you. And same with Kevin Michael Estrella. He's had contact with all kinds of beings besides the Ponti. And he's going to come back in a couple of months or maybe a month, and he's going to talk all about some of his other experiences. So this is not unheard of. This is not rare. And I don't believe you're crazy. And thank you for being bold enough, to share this information, because I think it's really, really important. AML says telepathy tapes are awesome. Yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree. So what I love about this community that comes to my live shows is we seem to be kind of a little bit online. We haven't had a lot of argument or lack of support. It's been a wonderful, wonderful community, and I've really enjoyed getting to know you all. And AML says he knows Kevin personally. Well, then you know what I'm talking about, and you can verify that I'm speaking truth. So yeah, we're just a huge community, and we have all kinds of different experiences, and we filter them through our perceptual arena. We make use of concepts as best we can. We stumble with language, but the thing I think that's pretty important is these beings are what you would call interfrequential. So Tyler Scott, who I had on the Quantum Guide show on Wednesday, you might want to check that out. He's done a lot of research. He's an ex-cop, Canadian cop, and he was not expecting to understand all this stuff. It just happened for him, and he has indeed a mission to help educate us. And he was the first one who talked about interfrequential, which means like interfrequency, because it's more about that than it is about dimensions. So different dimensions are different spatial regions, different places or ways of being alive. Interfrequential is more about us being able to hold the frequency to match that of what we would consider our ET brothers and sisters and cousins, so that we can have more contact. And we're going through an amazing time right now where we're changing mentally, physically, spiritually. We're able to hold more frequency, and I believe we're the ones who will make contact. And I don't care what the government says. I don't need disclosure from them. I have my own. I have my friends that have had their own. So, we're the ones that are spreading the information. So please do share this show out with your friends and, with anyone who you think might be interested, because I do my very best. I'm not perfect, but I do my very best to um, respect everybody and to include all the theories into kind of a master theory that gives us something that we can talk about, without contention, where we can respect each other and love ourselves and still have a platform where we can talk about all this stuff and feel comfortable. So please do share this out with your friends. AML says Bob still monitors you. He is quite pleased with your progress. Oh my God. QAML. I appreciate that. I know he's there. If I needed him, he would come to me. I can feel him in the background, but I also know that I have a job to do, which includes this show, which includes the Quantum Guide Show, which includes my third podcast called Unseen Nexus, which airs every couple of weeks. And this is my job. And I love it. I love it. So um, thank you very much for picking that up. So yeah, that's the other thing. Bob's available to anybody. And Bob, of course, is not his real name. I don't know what his real name is, but we agreed I could call him Bob. And I get a real kick out of him. And he's not at all scary. And he's very gentle and loving. And he's helped me to understand so much. Do you want to read more about Bob? Yeah, pick up my book. I know I keep saying that like a broken record, but um, I've actually not sold a lot of books, and not a lot of people have read them. And I've been on all kinds of podcasts talking about my book, but it's like I can't expect the host of the show to have read every book from every guest they have on. I know I interview guests. I can't read all the books. I'm just not that good, right? But when they interview me and they haven't read the book, we don't get into near the depth that we do when someone has read the book. So for those of you who bought it and read it, thank you so much. And please do feel free to gift it to people this coming season. And it's not just a sales pitch. Like, I really need to get this information out. And I'm not saying I have truth with a capital T, not at all. I'm saying this is what happened for me. This is what my life has been like. And I'm hoping it'll give courage to other people to come out about their experiences and share. And oh, Polly's with us. Hello, Polly. So nice to see you. Thank you for joining us. And um, AML says, yes, he's definitely there. So I guess where I was going with what I said is that he is available. And there are many guides out there that are available. We just don't think to ask, I mean, partly because we feel silly doing it, or we don't want to appear like a weirdo. I mean, we're already weirdos, but we don't want to be any more weird than what we already are. Like, I get all that, but please do reach out for your spiritual guides, your interdimensional guides. They might be Bob, they might be somebody else, they might be a mantid, they might be angels. Angels are everywhere. People have no idea how many they are, and we don't have to be perfect to call on them. A lot of people think, oh, I'm a sinner, I'm not worthy, I can't call on you. Yes, we can. And the funny thing is angels love us no matter what we do. Even if we were totally wicked, angels still love us. They're still here for us. They understand our challenges, whether they're genetic or whether they're influenced by past lives, or whether they are due to our life experiences here on earth. Like, there's many reasons why things are the way they are. I don't claim to understand it, but it's pretty amazing that the angels do. So please, that's the other thing. Takeaway from today is, don't be afraid to make contact on your own. Do not discredit yourself and think, oh, maybe I was crazy, or maybe I was dreaming, or maybe I just imagined it. The more faith you put into your experiences, the more experiences you get. And that also is a flashback to simulation theory and quantum physics. And double slit experiment and what we observe or experience is real. So you want to make this stuff more real, then just give it some validity and don't shrug it off because you're worth it. I'm worth it. We're all worth it. And there's a lot of challenges going on Earth today. Oh my, what a weird reality we live in. And so it's nice to have things that are our own. You know, a lot of people make contact through crystals. Crystals actually have an intelligence. They don't have a brain, but they are very frequency oriented. Each crystal emits its own frequency. And if you get one that's calling to you, you'll know because you can't resist it. You really want it. And you want to have it with you in your pocket. You want to sleep with it in your under your pillow. And it's funny, you can have a relationship crystals and orgone generators. I know no one told you that was possible. That's why I'm here to tell you this is absolutely experience. So let's see what Polly has to say. Polly says, in my experience, when I was 7, I had a download, green numbers 1305, running through my brain showing images. What are these numbers and how does it happen? I don't know, Polly. I cannot interpret your reality, but you can. And it's not actually hard. What's interesting, if you've seen the Netflix series called Three Body Problem, apparently it's also a book. They have that phenomena happening in that series as well, and it's really interesting. Whether it's predictive programming, I don't know, or whether they're starting to slip the truth out to us through entertainment, I don't know. But it's very interesting. Yes, AML says crystals choose us. They absolutely do, and I don't know what I would ever do without them. I consider them my friends. I know, wacky old lady, but I'm just saying that's how I feel. Polly says, thank you for your answer. Yeah, I'm sorry I can't help you out with that, but I don't know. And I don't want to bullshit and pretend I know when I don't know. I'm pretty honest that way. I'm not very good at lying. So, and in a way, that's a good thing because then you can sort of, know that I'm giving you the best that I have without making up a bunch of bullshit. Now, some people would listen to me and say, oh, it's all bullshit. None of that could be real. And, she's crazy. Boy, I've had a lot of that in my life. And, but it's one of the wonderful things about getting old is you don't care anymore. You have no more F's to give. You don't care, you don't care what people think. You're getting wrinkly and senility setting in and all that. And you don't care. You just be true to your mission, and I think that will give me a smoother transition when it's time for me to go on to the next reality. Um, Polly says, thank you for your answer and perfect. Awesome. So glad that you're okay with it. So guys, we're quickly running out of time. I have about 5 minutes left. I'm wondering if any of you have something you want to say, a comment you'd like featured. Perhaps you have a question or you want to just any closing thoughts or ideas. All good. And Denise, my dear friend Denise, I love you so much. I'm so glad you're here. Even if you can't make it to a show or two or a bunch, I trust you got a good reason, and I would never want to put that pressure on you. But you show up, show after show, and I just appreciate you so much. That is just so kind of you. And of course, your very generous donations. Denise says, please subscribe to Karen and hit the bell to be notified of all her shows. Thank you. And that's the other thing, guys. If you have subbed up and you haven't checked for a while, please check to see if you're still subbed. As I mentioned earlier, I'm getting comments from people saying, hey, Karen, I went to your channel and I checked and I was unsubbed. And I thought that was really interesting. That happened around the 2000 mark. I never thought I'd get to 2,000, but I did. And as soon as I got to 2,000, I got congratulations from YouTube. And then the numbers went down, down, down. And then eventually they came back up again. So you might want to just check that. Um, let's see what else we got happening. Yeah, AML suggests to Polly, ask your higher self for the information, but give yourself permission to receive the information first. Yep, good advice. Good advice. And Kristen says, Polly, have you looked at numerology? In my travels, I have seen many numbers. Yes, numerology. You know, one thing that happens to me every day, I see 1, 1, 1, 1, I see 2, 2, 2, I see 3, 3, 3s, 4, 4, 4s. Not always the same every day, but I see every day something, and I know it's a message. It's a message. 1, 1, 1s or 1, 1, 1s usually mean keep on the same course. I'm doing fine. 4, 4, 4s often reflect that the angels are near and guiding me. And you can look this stuff up. The same as if you're out and about, you see an animal you don't normally see, like a rabbit or a deer or something like that. Look it up when you get home and you'll see there's actually a message for you. Our whole reality is mostly empty space that we're perceiving with our very limited electromagnetic frequency to see colors or hearing or touch. It's so limited. I mean, just basic logic says to me, Karen, we're not alone. Even if you think you're alone and you're feeling lonely, you're totally not alone. This place is a big place and holds a lot of different kinds of beings and different dimensional realities, different frequential realities, you name it. And Polly, thank you very much. She said to be sure to hit the like button and please subscribe and comment after the show. Getting a whole bunch of love from Denise. Thank you so much. And a whole bunch of love from Kristen. It's such a great group. Thank you all for being here. You really make my day. You really make my day. Thank you. And let's see what Rodney says. Ever hear how the moon reflects land masses on Earth? Off topic. Yeah, it's off topic, but it's true. Absolutely true. Like there's a little map. If you take the flat Earth map, it's actually on the moon. So I'm not really sure what that's about. We could always talk about that another time. Oh, we got more here. Denise says, the chat was great today. Thank you, everyone who contributed. Much love. AML says, I'm so happy I caught today's show. You're awesome, Karen. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It is very nice to get some praise and respect in a world that is kind of a little bit stingy with that. Kristen says, look up the meeting and see what some others have thought. My numbers are 222. Absolutely. Yes, there are so many ways to get in touch with other realms, and you don't need to be a witch or you don't have to do rituals. It's so easy. It's about as easy as falling out of bed. Rodney says, you did a great solo, Karen. Thank you. Yeah, being on my own, I got to do all the talking. So, but I enjoy it, and I enjoy talking to you guys. I feel like we're all sharing, and we're all experiencing similar. Denise says, Polly, I see 333 and 444 all the time. Yes, LOL. Many rabbits and deer. Yeah, me too. I love it. I just love the freaky, wild world we live in. Okay, I got to just catch up on the chats before we close out the show. And Polly says, Denise, very interesting. And Polly says, thank you, Karen. You're very welcome. So I guess with that, we'll close out the show for today. Again, thank you, everybody, for joining me in the live chat. And if you can't make it to the live chat, thank you for those that are watching the replay, those that are listening on the audio podcasts. You can find all my audio podcasts at Forbidden Knowledge Network. All the links are below, everybody. Again, thank you so much, Denise, for your very kind Is that a super chat? I guess that's a super chat. Sorry, I'm new to all this. I don't even know what things are called. But thank you, Denise. Very, very kind of you. So we'll close out the show for today and just make sure you didn't miss everybody. Hugs to everybody. That's awesome. From Polly. Okay, guys, that's it. We're going to close out the show for now. Thank you again. I'll hopefully see you on Wednesday when I have another guest interview. My Wednesday shows are people who are bringing something amazing to humanity. Just whatever. It could be almost anything. And then, of course, Sundays are for the weird and the wonderful Aliens and Angels podcast. Bye-bye, everybody. We'll see you soon. Thank you for joining me for the Aliens and Angels podcast. Read about my true life ET contact in my book called Transdimensional Meet the New Neighbors, which is now available on Amazon worldwide. Subscribe to my YouTube, Rumble, and X channels at Karen Holton TV. The like button and leave me a comment, and please do share this podcast with your friends. Check out my website at www.karenholtonhealthcoach.com to see my free resources and amazing products and services. All of the links will be in the description below. As part of the Forbidden Knowledge Network, you'll also find the Quantum Guide Show with Karen Holton on all audio platforms. Until next time, keep up the good work.